We got Gators breakdown here. We know we're business.
Gators breakdown. Because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC right here, midweek episode with Sponge, Andrew Franklin. We're going to talk a little LIU, which, as much as there is to talk about LIU, and some reasons for optimism and concern heading into the 2025 season, not necessarily for this game, but also we're going to bring Sponge into the predictions Will and I do every year. So the over and unders and the predictions Will and I do. You can go back and get mine and Will's on Monday night's episode. But we're going to bring Sponge in here and get his thoughts on that too. So and then we'll hear from Billy Napier. I asked him a couple questions at the SEC teleconference. We'll kind of intertwine those into the optimism and concern portion of the episode. So lots to get into here, Sponge. Game week, Florida Saturday night against LIU. And it's finally here.
Yeah, man, game week, baby. Like I say, we've been yakking, talking season is finally done. It's now officially time to roll the ball out and spot it and do all that good stuff. High school ball got cranked up the last week, and it's going full force here in Duval, and like I said, all over the country. And like I say, now it's time for the college guys. We had our little flavor of week 0, not too much on that plate, but got a couple games in, and this Labor Day weekend slate is chock full of great matchups. Obviously,
glad you said that too. We're gonna get into some. We'll quickly go into some other games.
Yeah, we get our layup game that we're gonna have, and that's good. I'm glad we got a cream puff for once in a while. It's like, let's go out and let's execute at a high level and let's ball out, man.
Yeah, like I said, ain't go into it. This is more about Florida. And Billy Napier's talking to the media now, so I was following along a little bit. And some of the focus was, hey, I want to make sure one of the main topics Billy Napier hit on, and I agree with him because we've seen this way too many times, want to go out there and wrap up tackling. Yeah. It's the first game of the season. You don't really wrap up and hit and tackle and all that stuff too much. Now, granted, I think Florida's camp was probably a little more intense than others. And I think Florida learned a lot from themselves, trying to ramp up practice a little bit like they did last season, that first bye week. I think that carried over into this fall camp. But there's still nothing like, and I don't care who you're playing, still nothing like the live game tackling reps. And it was good to hear Napier say that tonight. It was one of the top things that he's looking for in this game versus LIU.
Yeah, definitely. Basically, this game is all about, like you said, Florida, and it's you just want to see clean, crisp execution on offense. You want to see some big plays, some explosive type plays, and you just want to see the basic type stuff. Just look smooth and like that. Honestly, you don't want that. There's been a couple games where we had, was it like Charlotte a couple years ago, where the game just didn't look smooth. Like, look crisp on offense, come out, do what you do, and then like you say, defensively, get after the quarterback a little bit and just, like I say, make tackles, man. You do that, and like I say, it'll be a blowout, which we're all expecting anyways.
Yeah.
But, like I say, it's too bad we can't have a running clock in this one because, like I say, but it's good that, I think we're going to see a lot of guys be able to participate, a lot of young guys, get some action. So this is one of those games where you just want to see everybody kind of stand out and show what they can do.
For sure. We'll come back around to the Florida side of it, too, before we hit on to the next segments and stuff. But everybody hit that like button right here on Gators Breakdown. If you're watching us live, check us out and hit that like button on the replay. Hit it as well. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet. What are you waiting on? Subscribe right here on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. All that good stuff really helping us out right here on Gators Breakdown. Remember, you can get your Gators Breakdown merch at gatorsbreakdownmerch.com. The Move Back You Suck shirt and on some other new designs. One I'm wearing right now, of course, the kind of little tropical gator look right there. You can get them gatorsbreakdownmerch.com. And, of course, not a better time to join Gators Breakdown Plus. Link is in the description. You can also gatorsbreakdownplus.com. I got to change that graphic there and update that with the web address. But you get extra episodes. You get access to the Discord, ad-free episodes of Gators Breakdown. Of course, with football season ramping up, there's going to be a little bit more ads in the episode. So if you want to, kind of avoid the ads, and one way you can do that, Gators Breakdown Plus. But lots of stuff going on there. Discord is hopping as we speak right now about what Napier's saying tonight. So good stuff there. All right, Sponge, let's get going to it right here. LIU, a little bit of background on the Sharks. Man, Jim McElwain wishes he was here. Moved up to D1 football in 2019, did LIU. And Ron Cooper, the head coach there, he owns a 12-22 record over 3 seasons so far as their head coach, although his Northeast Conference record is 11-9. After opening the 2024 campaign last year, they opened 0-6. The Sharks went 4-2 in their final 6 games to finish 4-8. That includes, if you go into that 4-8 season, that includes a 45-0 loss to TCU last year. Yeah. They led in the fourth quarter in their last 6 games when they went 4-2 there. So, Sponge, I went back and looked at that TCU game because that's, as close to competition as it's going to be. LIU had 9 first downs in that game. They had 127 total yards. They had 68 passing yards, 59 rushing yards, 5 of 17 on third down. Interestingly enough in that game, both teams had about 30 minutes of time of possession. So, let you know,
that'd be brutal.
That means TCU was, moving up and down the field in 30 minutes, and LIU had the ball for 30 minutes and not doing anything.
Yeah, so, that's what I'm saying. That's brutal to watch. 30 minutes of nothing.
Nothing.
Jeez. Yeah.
Hey, this marks the first time a Northeast Conference football team has ever played a Southeastern Conference team. The Sharks returned 14 starters, 6 on offense, 8 on defense, including 3 all-conference players. Quarterback Ethan Greenwood, offensive lineman Masood Giwa, I hope I said that right, and linebacker DQ Watkins. Zone read team, they'll use 2 quarterbacks with Greenwood and Luca Stanzani. I hope I said his name right. Greenwood transferred from Citadel. He made his first start in the 6th game of last year. Despite that, he ran for 913 yards, threw for 921, averaging about 15 throws a game, running for about 20 times a game. He's 6 foot, 193 pounds. I saw Billy Napier just mention talking about him. Yeah, we got to hold him in the pocket and make sure he doesn't scramble, and he has the unscripted plays. DQ Watkins is their best player on defense as well, with their best as their best edge rusher. He had 5.5 sacks last season. So as I said, we're not going to go and spend a whole lot of time on LIU, but that's kind of the gist. A lot of us had never even heard of this program until Florida's playing LIU. Not playing FAMU anymore. Got to go find an opponent. Florida and Long Island. Long Island. Who's Long Island? And we had to go look it up. There you go. That's about getting you caught up. Who to look out for them, but certainly kind of going to the point there. A game Florida should control, but there's a little bit of a look.
Yeah, like I say, it's another opponent. It's a different opponent. You've been banging on each other for several weeks now. It's always good to go hit somebody else. And again, what I say is, no matter who you're playing, you're always playing against yourself. You're always evaluating your own self. If you execute your what your job is and you do what you're supposed to do, then everything falls into place. So it doesn't matter if you're playing LIU or Georgia. You got to still do your job. Do it at a high level, do it at an efficient level, and that's what obviously we're hoping for. And it should be obviously a lot easy because the personnel is not like a Georgia or a LSU in a couple weeks. So, again, this is probably, I've heard multiple people say this is probably the worst team ever to come into the swamp, and I've been to a couple of the cupcake games from way back in the days. Where we always
the pay-per-view games back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's one of those things where you just do your job and just go have fun. Be able to go have fun. You put the jersey on, turn the lights on, and just go. Score some touchdowns, make some big plays. Get some picks, get some sacks. Just have some explosives, and like I say, just get on to the next week. Get out of there injury free, all that good stuff. All that jazz. It's not like this is a totally different game than having to play like a Utah or a Miami out the gate.
Yeah, good. Like you said, kind of to be able to ease into the season
right.
a bit. And one reason, let's get into it a little bit. We'll talk about it. What do you want to see from DJ Lagway? Of course, it's going to be the first time we see him in live action since the bowl game last year. Nothing in spring, nothing in fall camp. So we don't expect to see a whole lot of DJ Lagway. But, really just for the offense, it really just should be, just counting Lagway in this discussion, you should be able to really do what you just want to do. If you want to work on the passing game a little bit and trying to get that in sync, go ahead. If you just want to protect your players as much as you can and just lean on that offensive line a little bit, that's where I expect the game to eventually go. I do think you want to get some reps with Lagway. You want to get some of those backup reps too with the quarterbacks, but eventually this is just going to be kind of like as you said with the running clock. I think Florida's going to keep the clock running. Midway through the third quarter, fourth quarter, I expect 80% run plays from there on out. But going to the quarterback, just because it has been limited, what do you want to see from him?
I want to see every drive he's in better end with a kick, meaning an extra point. Like every time, like however many drives he gets, they need a touchdown on every drive that he's in there. That's what I'm expecting that. And that's what I want to see.
Mix it up too. One play, 2 plays. Maybe the next drive, 5 plays at most.
Exactly. I just want to see him complete balls at a high percentage. I definitely don't want to see any drop zone INTs or anything like that, so that's what I don't want to see. But yeah, like I say, the most part when he's in there, you just want to see, completions at a high level. Obviously guys should be getting open. You just want to see him, hey, give me a deep ball, hit a deep ball. That'd be great. And, he throws the deep ball really well. But let's see maybe some improvement on some of those mid read range throws, shorter, the high percentage where you have to like complete balls, that are, across the middle for 15 yards. Obviously, I think
the ones where you have to read a defense.
Right. And obviously, we think we're going to have success running the football throughout the whole game. But yeah, get some, maybe some explosive runs early. But like, I want to see DJ just look clean, that. And like I say, we haven't seen him since Tulane, and he didn't throw obviously much at all, since then. So you just want to see good, clean. They're going to keep the playbook vanilla. It's going to be basic stuff. So just, like I say, just execute at the highest level possible. And like I say, hopefully, nothing, knock on wood, no injuries, get out of there clean and, on to the next, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, there's not really much to even strategize, break down here. As I said, Florida.
Yeah, you're just better. They're better.
Yeah. And it just going to the point, and there is no sense in getting to the point where we can't overlook an opponent. No, yes, you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what you do.
We're fans. We're not players. We're not coaches. We can live in the world of, okay, this should be a blowout.
Right.
No coach speak here. This should be a bloodbath.
Yeah, even if we were playing FAMU, it's one of those games. Like where you move past that is okay. You got USF and the rest of the schedule.
And those speaking games, of USF, as we record, we'll be watching that team in 24 hours from now. And
that's what I'm saying. I saw you post that.
We get a good preview of our week 2 opponents.
Yeah, Boise State. That'll be a good little matchup.
Yeah. Well, they play. Credit to USF though. Early on in the season, Boise State, Florida, Miami. Yeah. I mean, so good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, they're definitely stacking their strength of schedule for sure.
Yeah. So, and on defense, as you said, first of all, you're going to be dominating up front. So, or should be. So it's just, I saw somebody jokingly, but I don't know if it's much of a joke. And, fluke plays happen here or there, but somebody said, I don't want to see him cross to 50.
Yeah. I mean, that's a tall order, but
it is a tall order, especially if you're going to go put up like 50 points. All right. They're going to get 7, 8 drives.
Right.
So
I want the numbers to look what you were saying that TCU had. I want them to look similar to that. And that's what I'm expecting. So if they're getting more yards than they had against TCU and we're not getting as much and vice versa, giving up too many first downs, again, just because it's LIU, you can't expect them to be like, hold them to no first downs, don't cross the 50 once, no points. Like, sure, you can have those high attainable goals, but, it's still football. There's still, balls bounce funny sometimes, but I'm expecting a big time score and a big time number. So, I mean, with all those numbers, TCU only scored 40, but they didn't even reach 50. So,
right. I'm looking, if we want to throw out some kind of scores, I'm in that 52, 55 to, all right, maybe I'll give them 7, maybe.
Right.
But I'm in that world. 55-7. Just something like that.
Yeah, I got him with the goose egg somewhere like 56-0, something like that.
Yeah. I guess I'm being nice, but yeah.
You can be nice. It's all
I
good.
can be nice.
Yeah,
I'm a nice guy. I think I am. Hey, before we get into some more Florida talk, we're going to take a look at some other games. We're definitely going to take a look at some other games right quick. This is going to be like college game day style. We're going to give like some little blurbs of these matchups, of what's going on around the country. I'm just really going to concentrate on because a bunch of Florida opponents are coming. LSU, Miami. Yeah. We play them in the first month of the season. They got some big games coming up. So we'll talk about those for a second. Texas, not too far down the road either. And then we'll take a look at FSU, Alabama there too. Hey, but before we do, you want to bet those games? Hey, go to MyBookie. The season is here, and it's time to bet with MyBookie. You don't have to worry about betting Florida, Long Island. Maybe if you want to, but you can get in on some future bets with the Gators. Right now, Sponge, I just saw Florida 5.5-point underdog at LSU. You can get in on that right now if you want to. A 3-point dog at Miami if you want to get in on that one too for the Gators. So now's the time that's the time to get in on these odds. If you're a believer in Florida, head to MyBookie and bet those odds right there. What about an over-under of 3.5 conference win for the Gators? You can get plus 1,900 odds for Florida to win the SEC. You can even bet on the over-under of 3.5 or number of SEC teams that will make the college football playoff. Think it'd be 3? Think it'd be 4? You can go bet that at MyBookie. It is your one-stop sports book and casino in one. One account, one wallet. Bet football all weekend, then hit the slots after dark. No switching apps, no jumping platforms, just straight up action. And if you're new to MyBookie, use our code GATORS on your first bet up to $500 and it's fully covered. Make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back with the bet back bonus. No stress, just a one-time rollover on the return bet, so you're free to reload and keep firing. Sign up at mybookie.ag with promo code GATORS and claim your bet back bonus. All right, Sponge, let's get to these other games right quick, and then we'll get back to some Gator talk. LSU at Clemson on Saturday. It is Florida's first road game, Florida's first big game in a couple of weeks. But the purple and gold Tigers are going to the orange and purple Tigers in another Death Valley.
Which one's the real Death Valley?
Clemson favored by 4 right there on MyBookie. Here's something for you. How bad have things gotten for both teams in season openers? Clemson lost to Georgia last year, lost to Duke the year before that, remember that?
Yeah.
Combined scores of those games, 62-10.
Yeah.
So Clemson has dropped 3 of their last 4 season openers, and it's even worse for LSU, losing their last 5 openers. The last win, Clemson in the 2019 opener when they went on to win the national championship. So varying degrees here of having issues in openers. But looking at this one, LSU's run game, reports out of camp has not been glowing about their new look offensive line. So how much of the game will be on Garrett Nussmeier? Woods and company on that Clemson defensive line. They just may take advantage with the home crowd also behind them. And look, I do think LSU's defense will be improved this season, but how fast? Heavy portal usage there. I don't think they'll be quite ready for this. But look at this. I think this is the ACC's best team versus the 4th, 5th, 6th best SEC team maybe. And Clemson really struggled in this scenario a season ago. 0-3 versus the SEC. But I do think they get this one. I'm going with Clemson. I'm going to say squeak by. I don't think they cover. If that line's 4, I think they might squeak it out by 3.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. I don't know why. Clemson, everybody's been talking Clemson. I think obviously the game being at Clemson is a big deal instead of being like in Atlanta or in Charlotte or something where it's some sort of neutral. Obviously we know Nussmeier is going to throw it around the yard. The big question, like we said, is what does LSU's offensive line look like? They do have some talented backs that look like they can be pretty good, but if I don't care who's back there, if you can't block for them, you can't open up holes. With that Clemson D line, which is probably their strong suit, I like Cade Klubnik. I like those receivers they got. I feel like Clemson to me kind of was kind of like Florida at the end of the year. Now they lost that South Carolina game, but winning it, basically winning the ACC title, and then they gave Texas a run too.
Yeah.
In that playoff game. But I just feel like if the game was in the other Death Valley at LSU, I'd probably maybe lean that way. But even so, I still feel like Clemson is just they're better off overall team wise. I feel like they got obviously Cade Klubnik, veteran. He's been there I feel like forever. I like those receivers they got. They got good backs as well. They basically are layered up on defense too. That front line is really good. They got good guys in the secondary as well. So yeah, I'm with you on Clemson there. They cover that 4.
I'm switching. I think they do actually.
Yeah, I think
talked myself out of it.
I think if they are going to win, I think they have to cover by 4. So I think they end up cover by 4.
Yeah,
but I definitely think it's going to. It's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I think it's going to be a back and forth ball game, and it should be a really good game too. So
also with this, it's kind of similar when you look at Florida and Clemson. Now Clemson has been even less reliant on the transfer portal than Florida.
Yeah.
But it is kind of the same approach of, hey, we're going to build this through our high school recruiting, and we're going to go this. We're going to go this route with it versus the heavy portal usage of LSU this year. So maybe it gives us a little bit of glimpse of the tried and true high school versus the mix of LSU and for this year heavy transfer portal usage there. So kind of a good glimpse, kind of a opposites that we can kind of look at for this one. So. All right, Sponge, let's go to Florida's next big opponent. I am going to go ahead and go to Sunday night as the Miami Hurricanes host Notre Dame, the Irish favorite by 2.5 right there on my bookie. I am torn on this one.
I'm torn too, man.
I think I'm leaning Miami.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because I think the biggest question mark.
I don't know if I can trust Mario.
I know. And I guess the part of that too is I don't know if I trust Notre Dame's quarterback play yet.
There you go.
CJ Carr.
Yep.
Was he named the starter? And it's a brand new starter, and thrown into, a big game like right out of the gate. Like you better be good. Obviously they're going to lean on Jeremiah Love at running back, heavy, but can they run the ball? It's all new, they got new problems, new this and that, the other. And so like Miami, I guess the big question, like you just said, can you trust Mario in a big game right now out of the gate? And then it boils down to what's Carson Beck look like, because if Carson Beck can be serviceable, they can be pretty good. I think they got some decent weapons. They retooled. They lost obviously a lot of weapons. They lost all the receivers either to the draft or transfer. They lose Restrepo to the draft. They lose Horton to Bama.
Yeah.
They lost a couple other guys. Now they did get the kid from LSU, Daniels.
Oh yeah, Daniels, who I really liked last year.
Yeah, we wanted him to come to us.
Yeah, he just did not live up to the.
Yeah, and he didn't play well at LSU.
No, he didn't. Yeah.
So I mean, maybe another new change of scenery. I don't know, works for him. But they do have, again. I think other thing, Miami does have some decent backs. I like Fletcher. Lyle's pretty fast. Pringle's pretty good. They got a pretty good stable backfield. So
with a good offensive line in front of them.
Exactly. So the thing with that is that's where you kind of stick to the Gators mantra of like, let's get in here and run the ball. Mario, obviously offensive line guy himself, he's going to want to run the ball. So I feel like I'm more comfortable with maybe Carson Beck in that offensive line and running game with Miami versus a rookie quarterback in CJ Carr. But I think it's going to be a good game too.
Yeah.
Now, if Carr comes out and like really shocks the world, and
he's the unknown.
Yeah, I got to see what he looks like. I haven't seen him, so
that's what I'm saying.
That's the big thing with a lot of these quarterbacks. We haven't seen him play yet.
Yeah, I was saying, like even with a transfer quarterback, we got to remember Carson Beck's a transfer,
right.
So it is new for Miami, but we've seen him.
We've seen Carson Beck.
Yeah. So. And like you said, I think pair him with their ground game and a good offensive line. That's probably why I lean Miami. I'm not confident. I would not bet this one with nothing because I really have no idea. But if you're telling me, I got to pick a winner, I think I'm going to lean Miami. Now, like you said, Carson Beck doesn't look receivers. I don't think they'll be even asked to really do a whole lot.
No.
So if Notre Dame gets up on them, maybe now it gets them in some trouble because we saw
see
the
what-
turnover. We saw the turnover issues with Beck last year, and it's a new cast of receivers. So I like Fletcher and Lyle as well. But man, if Notre Dame gets up on them, it could get ugly.
Like I say, I haven't dove too much into Notre Dame, what they lost on defense and what they returned. Obviously, Freeman did a heck of a job defensively, you know, going back to like that Georgia game and even into the, you know, when they played Penn State. And like, if they play at a high level, that's the part that I want to see. I want to see how good is that Notre Dame defense again. I mean, I feel like it's going to be good. So can Notre Dame's defense cause some problems, you know, to Miami? And then the other thing where they play the 3-phase game is they do a good job on special teams as well. They'll return a kick.
Yeah.
They'll block a kick. You know, like people sometimes take that phase out of the game, and it's like that's an important part of their game. Like that's ultimately how they flipped that Georgia game. I mean, they got they blocked the kick, and then they got a return for a touchdown, and then like then the defense just suffocated Gunnar Stockton and the Georgia Bulldogs in that game. But that'll be a good. I want to see what Georgia's or what Notre Dame's defense looks like, and if their defense travels, so if they can kind of control the game a little bit and make it tight, then it comes down to, okay, maybe Carson's got to make a throw or two, and maybe Notre Dame makes a pick, you know, because we know Carson loves to throw INTs. So who knows?
Yep. YTN Breeze says Clemson by 7. Then he responds with Notre Dame by 10. Q Lee says Notre Dame by 3, and this is kind of where I'll go too. Q Lee says it'll be an ugly game. Notre Dame by a field goal. So, yeah, I do think it's going to be pretty low scoring. I think because of the quarterbacks, I do think it's relying on the run games. So, I think it's going to keep it pretty low scoring. Let's go back to Saturday at noon. Texas at Ohio State. You know, Florida's first big home game about, you know, a month into the season. Ohio State home favorites 1.5. I'm going Texas here. I think there's just too much new at quarterback, at offensive coordinator, at defensive coordinator for Ohio State. Now, don't get me wrong. If there's any program that can overcome a lot of those things, it's Ohio State. They got the talent, and you know they're just perennially up there. And look, with that, I'm not calling them terrible by any means. I just think first game out of the gates against Texas, all that newness, I think probably catches up with them. Now, here's the thing. They probably do have the two best players on the field. They got Jeremiah Smith, and they got Caleb Downs. Definitely. But I think Texas has right now going into it the better overall team. Now, Arch Manning's got to prove himself, and he's on the road with a new look offensive line in front of him and some new receivers too. But in the end, I think it'll be Texas's defense that pressures Ohio State, and that will be the difference in this game. So a lot of talent there for Ohio State, but too much new for me.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not good. We're agreeing too much because I feel like Texas too, and it's not even like the SEC homer in me or anything like that. I love, you know, what Ohio State's got on offense. Obviously, those receivers are just, you know, you talk about Jeremiah Smith, Cardell Tate, Brandon Ennis. You know, those guys are all three are huge, capable receivers, big time playmakers. But question mark, Julian saying, is he that guy? Like, he was highly touted. He went to Bama. You know, everybody wanted him out of high school. I remember watching the kid playing the 7-on-7 circuit and was really good. You know, finally gets his shot to play. You know, so you expect the crazy part about it is you expect these 4- and 5-star kids. You know, even if they not necessarily true freshmen, have been in maybe the system a little bit, they kind of can come in and be pretty good. And you'd be like, you know, not be shocked. Like, Sand could come out there and rip it up. I mean, he's got.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's
what I'm saying. Like you know, now the question, like you just said, Chip Kelly being gone, you know, how much of Ryan Day is back involved in the offense? I know Hartline's now taking over the duties of play calling. But you know, that's again, it's just the nature of brand new. Haven't seen it. I know they lost a ton on defense. Yeah. Obviously, like you said, they got the best player probably in the country at safety in Caleb Downs. But like you said, I feel like Texas overall, I know we haven't seen a lot of Arch, but I think there's a lot of hype that he's going to be good. They too have some pretty good receivers and pretty good weapons. I like their running game and Wisner and Baxter. Is he fully healthy, ready to go? You know, then I love that defensive line that Texas has. So Colin Simmons getting after him.
Yeah, so they got some questions on the interior, but
still
rushing the passer.
That's the big question is, you know, can Texas replace what they had on that defensive tackle spot where they basically didn't let anybody run on them? You would think the way that Sark's recruited that those guys are going to be pretty good still, but like those edges are legit. And then they got a pretty good corner and Taff at safety as well. So like I say, I feel like defense travels again, and I go with the little bit of the veteran quarterback and Arch over a rookie quarterback, just kind of like CJ Carr. But like I say, saying and Carr could prove us all wrong and be like, these guys are legit now. Like I say, they got weapons to throw to. But like I say, I'm kind of leaning Texas as well, man.
Yep, there we go. Hey, this is just a fifth game between these two. In 3 of them, the winner has went on to play for the national championship. So there we go. That's how big this one is. I don't think we got to spend too much time on this one, but we're going to. Alabama at FSU. Just how bad will Bama win? Favored by 13.5 on my bookie, and I know there's questions about how good Ty Simpson can be at quarterback for the Crimson Tide, but to me that is more of a national championship argument, not a beating FSU argument. Ty Simpson's going to be good enough to go beat FSU. So, look, the Bama offensive line, wide receiver group, I think they'll just be way too much for Florida State's defense. Tommy Castellanos, I don't see him putting this team on his shoulders with Gus Malzahn at OC and beating Bama. Now, if there's one thing Bama had trouble with last year, it was quarterbacks that could get a little creative.
They've always had that problem.
And that's true. Johnny Manziel, and then you go back to last year and Diego Pavia, and do they shore that up? I don't think Castellanos. First of all, he probably take them off with some of those comments.
Yeah. He's been popping off for sure.
Yeah, but I think Bama's going to be up by a couple of scores most of this game and kind of coast to a season-opening win here. But I just think, FSU, yes, they'll be better. They're not ready for this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Bama cruises. I think, again, this is a whole nother brand new quarterback, in Ty Simpson. Highly recruited guy again, so these guys are fully capable. Again, he's kind of like go to, having Jeremiah Smith. They got Ryan Williams, Isaiah Horton. They got. I know Jan Miller, is out with the collarbone injury or whatever it is, but honestly, I love Richard Young. Like, I wanted Richard Young in Gainesville bad, so we get to see him basically get the bulk of the totes on Saturday against the Noles. Yeah, I don't love. Like I say, we'll see how this new marriage of Gus Malzahn is going to be in Florida State in Tallahassee. But like I say, I don't think that the Noles are ready for that offense, and then vice versa. Florida State doesn't have anything impressive me offensively themselves, or where it's like, all right, who you got to worry about? I know they got some guys back, healthy, and Lucas is back, and he was one of their, the guys that they wanted to count on last year as their kind of gadget guy. He's like kind of their motion guy, and he'll run. He plays a little bit of running back, a little bit of slot, a little bit of this. He's back, but other than that, like, I do like Cam Davis at running back. But again, I just don't. In my opinion, you really didn't upgrade at quarterback. Now, I could be completely wrong. Like Castellanos, he's kind of a local kid as well. We covered him because he's from like South Georgia, so we covered some of those state championship runs.
Right there where I grew up.
Ware County. There you go.
I grew up in Pierce, so right north of it.
Yeah. So basically, I knew the kid in high school, but it just didn't work out for him at Boston College. And, basically he's one of those guys, well, it didn't work out, kind of pouted, and, here he is now. So it's just like, to me, if you're one of the upper echelon programs and you're getting a portal quarterback to be your starter, he needs to be a guy who's like, name brand, where you're like, we just made a major upgrade at quarterback. And I don't think they did. So we'll see. He could prove me wrong, but I just, like I say, Florida State, they're not ready for Bama.
Hey, question though. And the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. And we got to see how the game will play out if this is the case. But what if FSU does win?
Right.
What does it mean? Does it mean Bama's in serious trouble with Kalen DeBoer in year 2? Does it mean, don't get me wrong, that's going to be the narrative anyway.
Yeah.
But for FSU, if they win after that 2-10 season they had last year, is it all right, we're back? Like I said, we have to see how it plays out.
That'd be huge. It'd be huge. I'd
Yeah.
be completely shocked, and I'd be huge.
I would be too.
And I would, obviously, I tip my cap to him and all that, but it's just like that's
like, would it be fluky? Would it be anything can happen in one
game? I think if Florida State wins the game, I don't think it'll be fluky. I mean, obviously anything's possible. But to me, if you're in a game where I don't think you should be in the game, that means you didn't do a lot of fluke stuff. That means you played pretty good ball. I know they're a 2-touchdown underdog, and I would take Bama to cover.
Me too.
And like I say, I think Bama, like you said, kind of wins, kind of going away as well. It might be tight early, but I think Bama makes the bigger plays. I do love that Ryan Grubb is back with DeBoer now.
Right. Yep.
So yeah, I just don't know. Put it this way: if Florida State won that game, that's major kudos. That's a big win, to where. And then, like you said, Bama, are you in trouble? Yeah, you're in trouble because you got games against Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, Oklahoma, LSU. Yeah. In my opinion, none of those teams are as good as Florida State.
No. And in this new world of college football, you can afford a loss. But, man, it's just that we always overreact to week one. It's like Florida versus Utah in Napier's first year. Okay.
Totally.
we thought we were on our way. If we thought we were on, and we come crash back down to earth the very next week. So week ones don't mean everything. But this one that would be a weird one. Given a 2-10 FSU last year and bouncing back like that. So, all right. Hey, good stuff there. Everybody, go to MyBookie. MyBookie.ag if you want to get in on the action
lay some money, baby. Lay some money.
All right. Quickly, Sponge, get you in here on the predictions that Will and I lay out every year.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the over.
I wanted to go back and listen and cheat a little bit, but I didn't get a chance to.
I was wondering. I was going to ask you. That.
Yeah. No, I actually didn't. I didn't. So this is off rip. This is me picking what I picked.
All right, there we go. So over under, we're going 12 games here, of course. 30 passing touchdowns for DJ Lagway.
I went under. The only reason I went under.
There we go.
The only reason I went under on this is I think it's going to be pretty close, right around there, because I'll give them 2 to 3 obviously a game, but I think there's going to be a lot of running touchdowns too, and I think he could have some as well. So I went slightly under, but I think he's still going to have it. But I think he's still going to have a big year.
Yeah.
Because I went over on the next one. I went over on the next one because I think he's going to throw for a lot of
That's funny because and I mentioned this too. Like I'm a big fan of the run game. So this can be a balanced attack. So
totally,
him not having those numbers would not necessarily mean a bad year. It would not. Totally. It would not have to mean that. Is maybe the better way to put it. So, all right. So you teased it right here.
Yeah.
Over under 3,200 yards passing.
Yeah, I went over on that just because I feel like he's such an explosive passer. We've seen him hit the long ball. He gets those big, huge chunk plays. And then, like I say, it's like kind of go to the Kentucky game where he threw like 11 times for whatever he was. And, it was a ton of yards. How many touchdowns did he throw in that game?
Which one?
The Kentucky game where he had those like 11 completions.
The one he should have had more because remember, Ball had 5 touchdowns.
Right, exactly. So that's kind of what I feel like that can happen a lot this year too, where maybe you get those big, huge chunk plays, maybe you're not getting the end zone, and then you just hand it to him and touchdown. But I think he's going to throw for a lot of yards, but I think the touchdowns will be down just because I think unless you're getting the explosive one-play touchdowns, kind of like the Mizell touchdown in the Georgia game, which I think is going to happen too. But I'll go over on passing and under on the 30 touchdowns. But I think he's going to be pretty close either way.
All right, going to the run game, over under on averaging 175 yards a game.
I'm going over because I think they're going to lean on it, and I think I want to say what are they around last season? They were around 160 something maybe.
156.
Okay, yeah. So give me 25 more yards rushing. Let's go.
Yep, that's kind of where I broke it down to. I was like, can they get an extra 20 a game? I think so.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. They should be better in all phases. So you're thinking,
and then one more though, go in the other way. If they don't, because you have Lagway at quarterback, it doesn't necessarily mean a bad.
Exactly, because we're going to be talking about more yards in the air.
Yep. Any running back average 15 carries a game, and the reason I went with this one, you go back to season 1 under Napier. Johnson had 9 carries. ETN also had about 9. In 2023, Montreux had 12.6, ETN had 12, so your top two guys were even there, but still not getting to 15. And then last year, Montreux Johnson with 10, Ball had 10 a game, Jackson 7 a game. So no running backs have hit 15 carries a game yet for Billy Napier in his time here. So I did go one of them get it this year, but hasn't happened yet. I'd probably lean Ball, but I just think one of them do it. I just think one of them do it.
Yeah, I picked Jaden Ball just because I feel like he's your number one guy. I think he's going to get, like I said, they're going to split because I know Billy loves to keep fresh backs.
Yeah.
And I love the way Jacoby runs. Jack Cheese totes that rock, man. So like he'll go with the hot hand too. So, that could law of averages might, to where the one guy might not get it, every night, 15 totes. But I'm gonna go Ball just because I think we're in for a big season with him.
Me too. Any wide receiver gets 65 catches in 2023. Ricky Pearsall had right on the number of 65. Trey Wilson that year had 61. There's pop passes come into play here a little bit too. But you go back to last year, Elijah Badger with 37, Chimere Dike with 36. So do you think any get up to 65?
I went no on that one just because I think they're going to spread it around. I think it's going to be kind of like last year. I think Dallas Wilson's going to have a big year. I think Eugene's going to have a big year. I think some of these other freshmen, Mizell, is he going to step up? Sturdivant, like I say, I think you got too many cooks in the kitchen to where not too many balls, or there's only one ball, and it's hard to load up with one guy. Now, don't get me wrong, if Dallas Wilson had 70 catches, I'm all for it. So, but I think just there's too much weaponry to DJ to basically spread it around a little bit, and I think we don't get to that number. But again, I think more the merrier of getting everybody involved is better, in my opinion.
But we can't keep touting how deep this wide receiver room is and then be disappointed if nobody gets like 60 catches.
Right. Yeah.
So I see this might have to be the last year I put that number that high. We'll give it one more year.
All right.
But
it might change next year because Dallas Wilson might be that guy.
Very true. Very true. So. Does the offense over or under 33 points per game? Do you think they pass that or not?
I went over.
Yep.
I think we're going to score points, baby.
Yep.
Like I say, I think obviously we talk about this explosive offense, DJ Lagway. We think he's going to be, Heisman contender. We think he's going to throw it around. We think we're going to have good running game. Like, I feel like we should score, about 35 a game. So what was the average last year? 27, 28, something like that.
Yes.
See, so again, I think
28 in the 12 regular season games, it was 28.
Okay, yeah. See, so I see improvement in that area. To whereas, I think we can score. I think our offense is going to be a whole lot better because you're going to have a DJ Lagway playing 12 games and not just 6-7 games. So I think on top of this running game that I think is going to be monstrous. So yeah, give me 33 a game or more.
Yeah,
more.
It better be. Go to the other side, and then we'll keep it right there on that same topic, but we'll go to the defense and 21 points per game, over or under that mark.
All right. What was last year's?
Last year was 24.3, but in the stretch of LSU, Ole Miss, FSU, and Tulane, the defense only gave up an average of 13.
Yeah, that was lights out.
So in that it was about a 10-point difference from the season to that last stretch of the season.
Yeah, I feel like because I didn't solidify this one. This is the one I had grayed out that I haven't picked yet because I feel like 21 is like a push. I feel like it's going to be right around that. That's a good number you put because definitely obviously you just said it. The final stretch of those games, defense played really, really good. And that's where we think they're trending towards. Yeah. But you're also going to be playing some pretty good ball clubs. So I'll go over 21.
Okay. I think I said it at 21. I went over with 20, and Will went with 22. So we were all right there. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go to sacks. It was 38 sacks for the Gators last season, and I'm putting the over/under at 32. Can they repeat, get all the way up to 38 again? Remember they had the crazy game against LSU where they racked up sacks and turnovers going to the next one. If turnovers was the FSU game. FSU had like 5 fumbles in that game. So there were a couple of games where Florida went crazy. LSU with the sacks, FSU with the turnovers. 38 sacks over under, but I set it at 32. It was 38 last year, over under 32.
I got them going over, baby.
Okay.
Because I think when you got a guy like Gums coming off the edge, you know, we're hoping big things from, you know, Sapp's not a huge sack guy, but I think he's going to have some big time stats. And then the wild card, everybody's loving Jaden Woods. So it's like if he's as advertised, you know, he'll pick up the slack in some of those that, you know, Pyburn and Cersei had last year, I think. And then, you know, throwing a guy like TJ McCray, like what are these guys going to do? So, or LJ McCray. And I feel like I think they're going to go over.
Yeah, I tell you what might be the difference in this.
All right.
Let's look at the end of the season and see how many come from the interior.
Yeah.
That might be where it goes.
I agree.
All right, let's go to turnovers. This was tricky because, you know, it can vary year to year. I just mentioned, you know, going against FSU, and I think there were, you know, 5 fumbles by Florida State there. So Florida had 22 in year 1 under Napier, 22 last year. In between that, there was 7 in 2023. So I set that over under at 17, given, you know, they've hit 22 twice, but only 7 in 2023. If you create a lot of havoc, create a lot of pressure, you know, turnovers can come, but I set it at 17.
Yeah. In my opinion, they better get over 17 because I want to see turnover like that. That's when you know your defense is good. I love causing havoc. I love, you know, forcing turnovers is a huge thing. You know, I feel like that secondary is, you know, experienced. You know, we talk about Castell being back there. We talk about Thornton being back there. We talked about the corners. Can Devin Moore stay healthy? You know, we know what Dijon can do. We're expecting big things from Kermani. So, like, you know, even guys like Gates and Sharif and all, like I say, the secondary is well tooled. We think this defensive line is going to get after quarterbacks. So I'm hoping balls are going to be tipped around. Balls are going to be getting in the air. We should have some good coverage back there. Like, let's force some fumbles. You know, that's one of the ones that, you know, sometimes is the lost art of, you know, getting the balls on the ground, you know, and like when the ball's on the ground, get on top of it. You know, some of those times where you're like, man, if that ball's available, get on it. Let's go. You know, so I think 17, I think it's a good number. And like I say, but I think if we're expecting this defense to take that step up, maybe they give up, like I say, a little more points than 21 a game, but they're, you know, causing turnovers and forcing turnovers and getting the offense the ball back as well. So yeah, I went over on the 17 turnovers.
All right, there we go. There we go. So let's go ultimate game changer. I'll give you one for each side of the ball. Who you going with on offense?
DJ Lagway.
Yep.
He's my Heisman Trophy winner. Now he's the guy that, you know, how we're going to go this year is DJ Lagway. And like I say, basically we talked about it. You know, he hasn't been there. He hasn't been thrown. He hasn't been playing, but we know what he's capable of. We know what a healthy DJ Lagway looks like. We know what a beast he can be. So it's more so of like, let's get it out there. Let's see it. Toss it around the yard. How this team's going to go in 2025 is going to be on 2 shoulders. And everybody knows it. Everybody talks about, you know, we'll talk about in a minute. Worst case scenario, bad things happen. If DJ's not out there, we're in trouble. Bottom line, like,
so outside of DJ, where would you go?
Offensive guy, I would go Trey Wilson, baby. Trey Wilson.
Okay.
Like I think he's got to go back to that form we saw 2 years ago where he is alpha dog number 1. Get me the rock. Let me make plays, you know, because in my opinion, when he's healthy, he's electric, you know, so it's like get him the ball, whether it's, you know, short, quick, and in space, whether it's a jet sweep, whether it's just like a quick hitch, you know, I mean, go back to that Tennessee game where I think he had like 5 hitch routes that, you know, he caught in that game and, you know, had plenty of yards. So I feel like he's capable of having a blowout season. And I think obviously at DJ at quarterback, I think he's going to be the number 1 target.
Yep. Game changer.
Who was your game changer offensively?
I went with Jaden Ball.
Okay.
Yep. That's where I went with it. Then on Defense, I went with Devin Moore.
I'm going Tyreek Sapp, man.
Yep. Love that one.
Like he's I'm expecting big things from Tyreek. It's time for him to I think he's going to put a monstrous season together. I think he's excited to play. I think he's, we talked about him coming back and all the adversity he's dealt with and all that stuff. And I think he's primed to have a killer season. And, he's got a good running mate right there in the middle. He's got some other guys, like you say, on the other side. The backers behind him, we talked about those guys being really, the great group that we got at linebacker. But I think Tyreek Sapp has a monstrous 2025 season, and I think he will be the big-time playmaker on defense that we're going to be like, man, I love 94 out there, dude. Aaron Gates is a baller too.
Yeah, Cooley's with Aaron Gates. I like that one too. I really like that one too. And man, credit to him for that, coming back from that injury so fast. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I mean, it seems like he can play anywhere back there in that secondary. So he might be why he does become a game changer, because we need you at nickel now. Okay, we need you at one of the true safety spots. Okay, so I like that one as well. Breakout player for you, Sponge, on offense. I went with VB3.
VB3, baby. I like it. See, here's where I guess my breakout player, he was a breakout last year, but this was your offensive MVP is Ball. I think Ball is going to have a killer year.
I agree with you. That is funny. I do think you can still put him as breakout.
Yeah, right. That's what I was wondering.
For Florida fans, probably not, but nationally,
yeah,
I agree with you. Like, you can still put that.
If you went across the country and asked who Florida's running back is, I wonder, would people know it's Jaden Ball, or do they think we run, multiple guys, this, that, and the other. But I definitely, obviously, he's a household name to us, and we know who he is, and we know what his capabilities are. But I think he's in for a breakout year too. That's why obviously I picked him to have over 15 carries. I think he will be the hot hand. I think he's not going to have Kentucky 5 touchdown performances every week, but he's capable of it. And I think he is a thumper. He loves contact. A lot of running backs don't, and he's a hard dude. That's one thing I love about both of our backs. We kind of haven't had these type of backs really, bruisers, contact seekers versus,
Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, for sure. I'm thinking back to like the Urban Dempsey Rainey, where they're just out of there.
Yeah. But I'll go to your point. But when it was Dameon Pierce, it was just Dameon Pierce. Going to your point, it's, hey, both of these guys. Well,
yeah. And then, like I say, I think what's going to be fun to watch is who's that third guy is, KD Daniels. He's kind of like your elusive kind of game breaker. And I think he's going to have a big touchdown run Saturday night, just for, there you go, just a little preview. But yeah, I like Ball to be kind of my breakout. I mean, again, breakout. He's already kind of broke out for us, but
no, I got you.
I think he's going to have a big year.
Defense for me, it was easy. I said Jaden Woods.
There you go. Me too.
Yeah. Okay.
I think he's prime. Like, put it this way. This is what we hope. We haven't been out there in practice every day, but we've seen the reports. And every report is glowing that this guy is in the backfield, eating quarterbacks' lunches. So if that's the case, I'm expecting to see some of that, on Saturdays, and hopefully it translates over to where this kid is, like you say, what was he doing in Kansas? We don't know, but we're going to find out. So I feel like he definitely has been the kind of most talked about guy that we haven't seen, that we kind of want to see. And so, I think he's primed for that breakout season.
All right. And best new face. It could be a transfer or a freshman.
Dallas Wilson, baby.
There you go.
Dallas Wilson. I think, talking about Trey, I think Dallas Wilson could be alpha 1 at wide receiver 1. I think he could be the difference maker, that we need. So, like, if you have both of those guys, both Wilson boys balling, that's going to be nothing but big time, for the offense. But I think we saw a little glimpse of what he can be capable of without a DJ throwing the ball in the spring. Can he be that big time national receiver that we've kind of lacked in the last several years, to where you see the Ryan Williams, the Jeremiah Smiths, and, the Cam Coleman, some of these, number 1 ranked receiver coming out of high school. Can we have that? And hopefully he's the guy. So hopefully he gets back, 100%. Hopefully he's feeling good. and I think that he's in for a monster career at UF, is what I'll say.
There we go. There we go. Taking all that into account, everything we've talked about for the last month or so, Sponge on the record. What?
Give me that 9-3. Give me that 9-3. I like to say, I'm not going to go.
By the way.
All right, there you go. Okay, see, so I'd love to go.
And you know, you and I talked behind the scenes. I've been so torn on 9-3, 10-2.
I know, and that's the thing is, I feel like the homer in me would have said 10-2, and that's fine because I love 10-2. But I think 9-3 still gets us in the dance.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we had a home playoff game with that record at 9-3. Hopefully, we'd be in the. Yeah. But I feel like, you know, obviously we talk about the schedule. There's a lot of pitfalls. You know, it's going to all predicate really that early stretch after these first two games, that LSU, Miami, Texas A&M. Exactly.
So
there you go.
I went with the losses at A&M and at Ole Miss.
Okay, and I could very well see that because I know A&M is definitely one of my losses, but then it boils down to, do we lose one of these early games to LSU or Miami?
Yep.
And then the next questionable game would be, you know, a Georgia. You do lose to Georgia, but I mean, I feel good about the Georgia game.
Yeah, I got the big win over Texas.
Yeah, I think Texas. The scary part is everybody's kind of doing that one.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't love that. Everybody's like
Chris Doring picked it. I know. I saw him pick it.
And Doring, I think I was listening to him on 1010 the other morning. I think he had us at 8-4.
Wait, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's got us beating Texas and Georgia.
He did. That's what he said.
If we end up 8-4 and
that's
beat
what Hicken,
Texas,
that's what Hicken said. Hicken and Prosser were like, dude, what? Hold on, we got a gripe here. Like, how do you have 4 losses, but we have 2 wins against Texas and Georgia? Like, who are we losing to? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that means you're going to lose to either LSU, A&M, Ole Miss. You know, that's what
that would be a gut punch because I think it still keeps you out of the playoff.
That would definitely 8-4 definitely would. I think we're capable of a 10-2. Because again,
and we're capable of an 8-4.
Yeah. There you go. There's the spectrum. You know, I think, you know, me and my buddy, we were talking, you know, a couple weeks ago because he's a Hurricanes fan, and so we were saying, I'll ask you this question: what is Florida's best case scenario, worst case scenario? Like, what would be bad? Like, what would be ultimately just bad? Or we're firing Billy.
You know, this would go good into our next topic 2, optimism and concerns.
There you go.
I think 10-2 is a ceiling. I have a hard time seeing 11-1. I mean,
so I'm with you. I think 10-2 would be high ceiling. So what would be worst case scenario?
Worst case is 7-5. I don't think you get there, but I could see it. I mean, if this. And I'm not even trying to take injuries into it.
None of that. Don't even say DJ's out. Like I say,
the schedule is hard. Maybe you just come up very short against the top teams that you play. Maybe you come up short versus LSU, Miami, Texas A&M, and Georgia. I mean, there's 5 games right there.
Yeah,
you can come up short in those games. You certainly can. But and I see that. That's what I'm saying. I see that as worst case. So
that's what I'm saying. That's and the thing about it is that's the scary part of this game is like it's razor thin. We talk about how razor thin it is with, you know, things that happen in the game where it's like 1 or 2 plays. You're like, well, if we just would have did this and executed here, and you know,
a fun exercise with that too. If you take best case and worst case, what would you say between those two is the most realistic case?
That's where
10-2 or 7-5.
I mean, that's why I picked 9-3, baby. No,
I'm not giving you the easy way out.
No, for sure. Which one I would lean towards? I would lean towards 10-2. I would because I think this team is better. Like again, part of the thing that I think a lot of people have who are non-Florida fans is they got like buyer's remorse. They're not buying like to where they're not in tune like how we're paying attention to everything. Like, you know, plus a lot of my buddies who are not Florida fans, they hate us, man. They're haters. So it's like, and it's true. They admit it. It's full fledged. You know, so fine. It's like
I hate their team too.
I love it. Exactly. I love it. I love that you hate us. Like we always say, they hate us because they ain't us. But I think we're in tune to where like we know this is one of the best teams we've seen. So it's like I guess we're buying we're buying it, to where is a lot of people still might be on the fence. They want to see DJ Lagway. They want to see the health and blah, 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 blah.
Well, and to Q's point, I won't really share the cussing on there, but, he shames Napier to game day coach. And look, there is a lot to prove there.
Yeah.
Absolutely there is. I won't say there won't. Or I won't say that there's not. But I guess, I'm taking into account that he's got his quarterback and his roster's in a good time, and maybe the roster overcomes him somewhat. I do think that's possible.
This is what I'm telling you. This is what I said, a couple weeks ago, I think it was. When you got Jimmys and Joes, man, when you got dudes, it definitely overcomes coaching, corrections. It just does. Like when you have the best roster or one of the best rosters that we've seen in a while, and you have a guy like what we think DJ Lagway can be, maybe one of the best quarterbacks we've had at Florida in a long, long time, or ever, that we're expecting him to like do some kind of crazy stuff. And now he's got to do it. And, but again, that's where like Billy might not be the greatest game day coach, but I think a lot of that too is when you build your roster up, the players make plays and they do stuff that's out of this world to where it's like he's dialing stuff up. I mean, we talked about how good Dan Mullen was on offense, dialing stuff up, but go back to what we talked about, that team he had, those receivers, like Trask was just tossed like that was the best offense we've seen in a long time because he had dudes. So no matter what he called,
the next year he didn't have dudes, and
exactly. So and he was really dialing it up Saturday against Idaho State too, by the way. But no, yeah. So it's like that's what it boils down to. Is you look at these teams who have been the top teams the last several years, they got players, man, and again. I'm
glad you're going there. I'll interrupt.
Good. No, but
no. Let's talk optimism right quick. All right. You just hit on Lagway.
Yeah.
Returning talent, kind of going to your point. I think that is it. While we'll close the episode with this topic.
Yeah.
It kind of what we were talking about too bleeds over into this. Lagway and the returning talent. Like you have the young quarterback, you have the superstar quarterback, and you're putting around him so many pieces that he played with last year. Yeah, up front and along the offensive line. There were two running backs that where he was playing with last year. They're there as well. Receiver, some new faces there, of course, but we feel good about the potential of that room and the talent of that room. So I think when you look for reasons of optimism, those are your main ones. And one more going into the season. There's just, of course, questions about DJ Lagway until we see him on the field. But the overall health of the team seems to be pretty good.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. Like I say, that's obviously camp. You get those bangs and bruises. You get the soft tissue stuff that we've seen. Pulled hamstring, strained quad, calves, ankles rolled, whatever. Luckily, like you said, knock on wood, we haven't had, any severe stuff. And I guess think about too, even across the country, we haven't seen many, like teams where, right? I'm just thinking about it right now. Normally you'll see
the superstars are,
like torn ACL, CJ Baxter out for the year.
Right.
So I don't know if that's more so teams too are being overly precautious, kind of like how Florida has been with DJ, Dallas and Trey. Like, we don't need to see this. Like, we know what you can do. Let's be 100% ready to go when season starts. And so,
not only that, if you're a major team and you got playoff aspirations, you've got a plan to be playing.
It's a long season, very long season. So, again, that's why, if DJ wasn't 100% healthy, he better not be playing Saturday. If there was any chance that he wasn't 100%, or if, Trey or Dallas, if they needed another week off or whatever, the case may be.
Yeah, I don't expect Dallas Wilson Saturday, by the way.
Yeah, so. There you go. So that's what I'm saying. So, and the thing about it is that, like you just said, this is a long grind now. Like, when you see, 14-1, 15-1 by teams records, that takes me back to when you watched the, Division 1AA playoffs, back in the day. Like these are just playing 15, 16 games. So, yeah, it's a long grinder season. You expect guys to go down, for multiple weeks at a time, maybe even the season. So next man up mentality. But I mean, definitely that's why, we're vibing on this team this year. We feel like the optimism is high, and definitely we're drinking the Kool-Aid. But again, I think the Kool-Aid ingredients are there to drink. So like, let's again, you got to go put it on tape. You got to go put it on film Saturday, and the following Saturday, and the following Saturday after that, and but these teams, I think this is the most wide open I feel like it's been in a long time in college football, because you think back to, we've talked about it, all these big time teams replacing quarterbacks, replacing a lot on defense, definitely, there's teams that have studs like Texas, Ohio State. We just talked about them. They're 1 and 2 in the country, but you think about the volume that they're replacing. Now you feel like they're one of those reload type teams. So roster for roster, I feel like we're up there with anybody. And I think that's why a lot of people are kind of, faux picking us to be in the playoff, and why we're going to be, one of those teams to see at the end of the year. But there's definitely the haters out there are definitely not picking the Gators. They're picking the regular Georgia, Bama, LSUs of the world, and maybe their Texas A&M is their surprise team, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, there we go. Talk about optimism. Billy Napier sound pretty high on the defense reaching that championship level. He talked about it last week, but certainly I wanted to go into it a little bit further with him today on the SEC teleconference. So while we're talking optimism, that defense has been a big part of it, and I asked Billy Napier about it today.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned last week, establishing that championship caliber defense has been a challenge, in your tenure so far. Given that you've played a lot of underclassmen on that side of the ball the last couple of years, how has defensive coordinator Ron Roberts, with his experience and his approach with these players, give you that confidence that this defense is ready to turn that corner and become that championship level defense?
Well, I think we do have. There's a lot of things that contribute to that. I do think that, number one, we have more competitive depth than we've ever had, and we also have some veteran players that I think provide really good leadership. We also have Coach Roberts going into year 2, which I think we will benefit from, and a couple new assistant coaches over there that I think have done a really good job. And don't forget that this is our 4th year in this system. Although we've had different coordinators, I think we've been able to keep the same system intact, and that's helped the players develop. But I do see a little bit more maturity on that side of the ball. And I think that in particular in the secondary, I think that group has grown up quite a bit over the last couple of years. So, look, we have the potential to play championship caliber defense, but we have to go do that when the time comes. So, you got to prove it on the field. But I do think the makeup of that group, not only from a talent perspective, but also from a mindset, is a positive for our team right now.
So there we go. I thought interesting comment. He made sure to point out that, hey, this is the 4th year in this defense. Yeah, maybe only the 2nd year with Ron Roberts, but it is the same exact defense. Remember, Ron Roberts came in. He was the godfather of this defense. Everybody was joking about. So you get that with him. But, yeah, it's interesting. There's just so much of the underclassmen that played in these last 2 years of this defense, and your Castells and Sharif Densons and your Dijon Johnsons and a lot of guys in the secondary. And just so many guys. They're not just coming back playing just in last year's defense. They've played in the last 2 years of this defense. So you get to pair that there with Ron Roberts and his experience in this defense. So one reason we should be, I think, high on what this defense can do and the potential of this defense. But Sponge, at the same time, I'm going to bring it up as a concern because here's the thing. It's got to be sustainable.
Yeah.
It was a great November, but it's been forever. And we talked about it last week that Florida's had a good season on defense.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So, as Billy Napier said, we'll see it on the field.
Yeah, no,
I'm hopeful, and I think it will be a good defense. Don't get me wrong. But it could still be a concern until we see it because it's been so long since we've seen a defense that Florida can rely on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's been the biggest question mark. We've talked about the last, even going back to Mullen's years, how the defense has just been like majorly disappointing to where we've got these offenses that are high powered, that going back to Grantham, it's just like, good God, man, we can't stop a nosebleed, and we could score, we're scoring 50 a game, but we can't stop nothing. And then even last year, start of the season where Miami basically, is running up and down the field on us. Marcel Reed and Texas A&M up and down the field on us.
In his first start, by the way.
Yeah, so it's just like you're like, what is going on, man? Like we can't stop anything. We can't pressure the quarterback. You can't stop the run. So it was just like majorly disappointing. And then all of a sudden, like I say, a light switch flipped, started playing better ball. And then, you had those two, huge wins against LSU, which is a pretty good offensive team, and Ole Miss, who's a good offensive team with Lane Kiffin, who scores points, puts up yards, does a lot of things, down the field. And you played really good in those games. And you obviously shut down Florida State. That was an easy win. But so now can the carryover be from what we saw last year to start the year? And obviously we're not going to see anything Saturday. That doesn't even count. But you better come out and have a good performance next week when we play South Florida, because they're capable of moving the ball up and down the field. They got a pretty decent quarterback. And then as the season goes on, so we're not going to really know anything until after, in my opinion, week 4, after we play the LSU and the Miami game. How good is this defense translated over to this season, to where you're forgetting about last year? You're not worried about the LSU and the Ole Miss win. That's out of here. That's out of the gate. It's forget about it. What are we doing this year? And where did we carry over that sustainability to be one of the top defenses? And again, like we said, it's layered up. That front 11, that first 11, it feels good. And then guess what? It feels like we got some depth to roll in some guys, if they get banged up or, get tired and you need to plug and play some guys. We feel good about, the front line and then even some backups. Like that's where championship teams are built, when you have the depth that we think that we have. And so now it all boils down to, there ain't no more talking about it after, in a couple more days. It's time to see what you got.
For sure. And we've kind of hit on it again already. Concerns, the schedule, of course, the road games. Billy Napier's still yet to beat a team that finishes the season with a winning record on the road. He just has not had a big road win yet. Year 1, it was at A&M. That was the only road win. A&M didn't finish the season with a winning record that year. South Carolina was the next year. They didn't finish the season with a winning record. Your road wins last year were Mississippi State and Florida State. They didn't finish the season with a winning record. You got LSU, you got Miami, you got A&M, you got Ole Miss. You've got to get over that hump. Those teams are going to finish the season with winning records. So
and like I say, that's again that we just talked about it. That's 4 games, So we're talking about an 8-4. If like that's if that's Doring's record, switch. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what you're hoping is you definitely figured that out, and can you go 50-50 and maybe you just win 2 out of those 4, then you get a win. You win your home games, you lose 1 or whatever, you go 9-3. That's kind of what the. But that's definitely gonna have to show up to where you finally get over that hump for sure. You got to get a big road win because you got 4, like you just named them. 4 big ones, and if we're expecting this team, kind of like Tennessee game last year, like you got to win that game. You got to win. I know, obviously, it was adversity with the injuries in that game. Mertz goes down, Montrell goes down, DJ comes in and plays well, but you just don't finish. You don't get it done. You just haven't won that signature road win. So guess what? Like I just said, out the gate, buddy, weeks 3 and 4, you got right there.
And the Lagway injury, of course, if he'll miss time, but paired that the development time that he missed in spring and fall, we can talk about it. We're not really going to know. You can't put a number on that.
No, obviously you want to see him out there again. Yeah. No, duh. You want to see him throw in spring. You want to see him throw in the summer. You want to see him get time, like for sure. That's best case scenario. But obviously it didn't happen. So you can't cry about it. It is what it is. And now you just got to go out there and expect the high level quarterback that he is. If he's the best quarterback in the country or one of the best quarterbacks in the country, that should be no problem then, in my opinion. Like as much as these guys throw and as much as these guys work, like sure, you want to have timing down and you want to know, okay, Sturdivant takes his step here. Dallas does this on this route. Yes, you want all that. But it's not, in my opinion, it's not the end of the world. Like, oh my God, we're going to suck now. And we're going to lose 5 games just because he didn't throw in the offseason. So if he's the high level quarterback that he is, and these, are top flight receivers, they should be able to get it down pretty quick. And especially you get 2 layup games to work on it before you have to go, with major bullets flying in Baton Rouge. So hopefully, I'm like I say, I know we're all dead tired of talking about it. So like DJ, come on, DJ, just get out there and start spinning that thing, baby.
And the last one is going to be brought up: coaching in critical moments. Like there's going to be with this schedule, there are going to be the critical moments in the game. You know, you might overall whatever you think about Billy Napier, okay, but there's just going to come critical moments. You know, the middle eight. You know, the final four in the first half, the first four in the second half. What's happening on 3rd and 7 when there's 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter? And there's just going to be those critical moments where it turned out great, you know, in November last year, but kind of going back to that Tennessee game and kind of going back to, you know, just throughout Billy Napier's career, we've seen the critical moments, whether it be some silly penalties, whether, you know, they don't look like they know what they're doing. Can't have that this year. Schedule's too hard. You got to be able to come back around on those and use it. And look, kind of going to your point earlier, maybe because you have this roster that you have, maybe you don't find yourself in as many at those moments, but they're going to be.
No, there's going to be. Oh, there's definitely going to be. Any game, like games are critical. Like again, the teams are very comparable when you're talking about the schedule. So it's like the good part about it is, you know, we talk about like when we didn't see much hope and when we were transitioning after Mullen and, you know, you're in a rebuild and all that stuff. You're like, can we just compete in games? Can we be there in the fourth quarter to maybe pull a win off against, you know, a big time team in Georgia when they were, you know, running it, you know, a couple of years ago when basically it felt like going into some of those games, like we don't have a shot, you know, and like that's where it's completely changed. And we definitely are in every single ball game. We should be in every. It shouldn't be like Miami last year or A&M where we're trying to fight to make something happen to win late. But there's going to be some critical moments, and that happens all the time. So yeah, that's definitely a concern. But what you got to go back on too is, you know, this roster is better, so hopefully you're not in that situation, or these guys are more experienced to not make those dumb mistakes.
Yeah, that's true.
Again, a lot of it boils down to some coaching blunders, but too, some of these guys made some dumb, boneheaded stuff on the field, and you know that's a part of it as well. Like, you know, I know coaches get the brunt of the blame, but players got to play too. And you know, it's sometimes, you know, the player can be the non-scapegoat, and it all goes to the coach, which in all likelihood the coach takes the responsibility, but you know, all that goes hand in hand. You know, you gotta be able to dial in and make the proper calls, and then again, you got to execute on the field. So, you know, I know everybody likes to bring up, I better not see 3 number 3s on the field on punch team. like sure, that's those are definitely dumb mistakes, and you hope that's remedied and stuff like that. But it's more so of execute, call good plays, and just, you know, and you're expecting. Now, this is year 4. You got good personnel. You got good players. Dial it up, and, you know, let's go. But there's definitely going to be some stuff where we're like head scratchers, and nobody's perfect, and there might be a game blown, you know, to where you're like, yeah, Billy screwed up right there. Yeah, you know, there's zero perfection in this sport, man. Like, it's going to happen, bro. Like, it's hard. It's hard out there. Like, what's crazy is people like, I'll put my coaching hat on, and I never was like the guy calling plays or the head coach or anything like that. You know, me just being like an assistant offensive coach, wide receiver coach, you know, being in Gus's ear when he's calling plays or whatever. Like, that's one thing that people will never have the perspective of understanding, like chaos on a sideline in critical junctures in games, dude. I mean, it is like the time is like a blur where you're like, oh my God, like it's crazy. And like people sitting on the couch or sitting in the stands, like, you know, think there's eternity of what player are you going to call? Like, you know, what's, you know, getting the right personnel in, and it's a madhouse. And it's like, it's one of those things of like, until you do it, you have no idea the stress that it is. But hey, they're also making millions of dollars.
You read about that's where I was going next. That's why he gets paid the $7.5 million.
I got some small stipend. It didn't matter for nothing. So that's partly why I ain't doing it no more. There
we go. Good stuff, Sponge. Next time we get together, of course, the Gators have one game under the belt, and looking forward to the USF. But good stuff. You know, like you said, talking season's over, so we'll be in football season mode from here on out.
We'll be critiquing next time
till December. So good stuff, man, and looking forward to chatting it up with you this fall.
For sure, man. Good.
All right,
good talk.
Good stuff. All right, everybody, find him at Coach Sponge right there on X. Andrew Franklin joining us right here on Gators Breakdown. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining us on this episode of Gators Breakdown.